Hi, this is Natu, a guy who's way too old and way too long involved in this game, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel.
No, I agree. By the way, that's one of the first things I think people who are more adult and have had more life experience think when you see some of the, let's just say some of the complaints that pro players say on Twitter. You sometimes think to yourself, mate, you should just try getting a real job for a year. You'll change your mind about how good this job is, where you get paid $20,000 a month. You know, I think some of them haven't been in the real world. I agree with you on that. Right, what about this then? So in CSGO, right, people don't know this detail. You weren't the coach actually when the team broke out and won that kind of 8-save event. That was like really early on. You'd only just quit at this time, basically. But later on in 2015, you became the coach. Now, one thing I have to ask about that is, obviously, coaches weren't as big a thing back then, and there weren't that many that were famous coaches. Obviously, you were the former teammate of NEO and TaZ, etc. But how coachable were they as a team? Because as we've talked about with some of the arguments earlier in big personalities, I always wondered, like, it doesn't, like when I look at some of the teams where, like, obviously Sonic teams, it looks like everyone just, it's like a football manager. They do what he says, they trust that he knows better, you know. It must be a bit trickier to coach Virtus.pro. I feel like there's people who might have different opinions or be stubborn sometimes, maybe.
Mm-hmm. It's how to start this. Often, a lot of journalists and casters, people at the desk at the events, they are kind of having this. Should I find the word? Like this impression of who the coach is by looking at real sports. But I would even say, sometimes in real sports, you do not know what the guy is really doing because of how much, let's say in football, right? Like you don't know how experienced is his analytics team or his physios, or, you know, how he set up the starting lineup is also dependent of who's able to play the game. It's different in sports, but you never know how good is his psychological approach to the players, of how much they care about food, drinking, and every other aspect of the game. And in the beginning of CSGO, when I came back and joined Virtus.pro, I was also managing a team in terms of, you know, finding flights, hotels, adjusting everything. So it was more than a coach. I was also an analyst at this time, just more of being the sixth guy. But this was set by an org, not by the players. They just wanted somebody to travel who can help them in game. And how much coachable they were. I think they were, because they wanted me to join, knowing how much loving to the game I have. And I was IGLing. I'm really good in making new strats and approaching the game in the right way of how to, let's say, how to win the games, not how to play the game, and building the structure. And I mean, the beginning, I would say it was also always exciting, because you're bringing something new. This honeymoon period lasted for probably longer, even though we didn't win events early. I mean, the first one we won was ESEA finals against FNATIC, who were dominant this time. I remember, I think we came from loser bracket even, and we won in Dallas, and some Copenhagen games again, and Dubai later. So there was few events, but nothing like seriously big. And it was, I mean, it was more of a, how do you say, fairy tale? I think, I'm not sure about the word.
Yeah.
But, you know, me joining my former teammates and succeeding again. Like, you often say you should not go to the same girlfriend after 3 years.
Sure.
It's always a fail. This time, team was in need of having a coach. I think I was the right guy, and now looking back, I'm really happy about the path we took. After some time, I was taking more charge of, you know, so many, I mean, the flights and everything were, because back in the days, you were not, I mean, tournament organizers were not paying for the flights yet. And I was about to find them and spending a lot of time. Then I focused way more into the game. And maybe you will have another question. And
I mean, along these lines, by the way, the thing you were just saying at the end there's something that must be very different from when you were playing a 1.6. Like, when in the early days of CSGO, it was kind of like 1.6. Like, if I went to an event, even as like a commentator or analyst, they would just put me in a room with some other guy. Like, I might just be with like some other journalist I don't even know, and I have to just like hope he doesn't snore or come in drunk when I'm trying to sleep, you know. But like, you know how it was only like a few years into when you were coaching that like the level of just life quality just went up to be in the pro scene. Like, you get not only the flight, you get your own hotel room. It's like playing only like maybe one match a day instead of, you know, the old days. You play the whole group stage, you play a semi-final into a final. Like, just actually the sort of experience of being in the pro scene is so different, right?
That's true. And I would say I changed my approach, not saying this anymore. When I was younger, we were playing 5 games a day, and I would say it's more of a parenting thing that you should not mention how was it before. I mean, you can maybe tell a story, but you should not believe that it was the better way, because
right.
I mean, the current is usually always better. And you, as boomers, we have to adjust to these times. And I mean, playing 1 game a day is of course better, right, than playing 3 or 5.
Yes.
Imagine you're playing for 200K tournament and you need to play 5 best of ones in a day, and then semi-final next day. How much stressful it would have been. It would be. And I mean, I like the way it went, definitely. And it's just funny stories to tell how difficult it was in the past in terms of, you know, even traveling, playing, sometimes 9 in the morning, sometimes 4 in the morning, the final. We played at DreamHack. Oh, we won actually DreamHack. No, it was 2000. I don't know which one, but we played at like 3 a.m. final.
Oh, the Copenhagen Games, I remember. You beat SK at like ridiculous, like 3 or 4 in the morning or something, I think.
I think we're Meteor Makers. 2008, we won DreamHack playing so early in the morning final, like 2008 for sure, but it was 3 or 4 a.m. And teams were often asking, like, should we split the money of the final? You know,
yeah, because everyone's so tired,
And we, no, like, we want to win. There was no, like, first or second place.
Yes.
Yeah, so times has changed. I even said that arenas has changed, but what remains the same is the meaning of the trophy. So the winner is always the one to be remembered. It doesn't matter how you win, but if you win.
Okay. Right. One thing that I noticed in the time period when you were coaching Virtus.pro is this is a narrative that sucks if you're someone who's used to winning the major all the time. Is your guys were almost always that close to win the major, and you always play whoever wins the major in a really epic, like, quarterfinal, semi-final game, sometimes even the final, but then they're the ones who win. But as a result, I thought what we could do is, instead of go through all the majors, we'll talk about the rivalries. So, for example, in 2015, when FNATIC won those 2 majors, You're was the team that had to play them in the semi-finals and was taking them close. And this was the FNATIC with Olaf Meister, and everyone remembers how Flusher was, and Crimson, this classic lineup. What was the rivalry like with these FNATIC guys, and why do you think they were so good?
And this is the thing I do not look at when I coach or play. I'm not looking into rivalry anymore. Just not... I was mentioning that when I was younger, I was building up my motivation with an anger against somebody. I have changed it. I try to control my, like, emotions and thoughts behind more, and just looking. Being fully honest, I do not follow like tier 1 scene, tier 2. I don't watch many games, let's say. I want my team to play the way I feel it has to be played, knowing my players. And I'm not looking into some rivalry, like even, let's say, Apeks and Gamer Legion. Now, I would say there is like not like a tension, but let's say we are at the same level. And even though we have succeeded by being top 4 at the major, they were fucking further. And this is what makes me feel sad. But then looking at this from... before the major expectation, I would have taken top 4, like, without,
of course, yes.
Blindfolded or something. So I've never had this like rivalry thing. This is more a storyline for, like, let's say, journalists and our fans. like us and Navi, us and FNATIC before. But for me, when I came back in 2015, I didn't really know who is Olof Meister or Flasha. I was always asking them, is this bald guy Olof or Krims? And they were just laughing at me because they have been already competing against them for a year or two. And when I came, I'm trying to make my team play the best and do my job as a coach. I do not really care against who I am playing. It's just I want to be a winner at the end, and I don't care about who are we playing actually.
Well, you mentioned it before. In this first year where you took over as coach, you guys got to win that ESL event that was in Dubai, where it was in that really, like, if people don't remember, it was a really crazy setup because because it was way too hot, because it's in Dubai, they had to eventually play like at night, but that gave it almost like a cool like atmosphere. So do you remember winning this match? Because I remember like the final against TSM was epic. It was like this 5-game map. It was one of the first best of fives actually. It was like some epic match that went all the way to the end. Do you remember winning?
Of course, I remember. Even sitting with Frederick Biskov, he was in charge of Astralis back then, and pre-game I was sitting in players' lunch saying that this best of 5 it's just nonsense because you guys gonna win your map pick, we're gonna win ours. Then we play 2 like so maps for everyone, and for sure we're gonna play 5th. And this is what was happening. Best of 5 finals I don't like as well. I remember this AC and conditions, and I mean the whole lack of words. I know, though. I still think I have better English than we talked last time.
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
How to say the whole aura around this event. Like, you play in Dubai. I was in Dubai 2 times before, and I lost to Mouse Sports in 2008. I lost to somebody else in 2009, and then it was my first time in Dubai, and I finally wanted to win. And this was, so far this year, 2015, it was the biggest event we won. I think it was 100K prize pool.
Yep.
And before that, we won this ESEA, Copenhagen Games, and maybe just these 2. But it was ESL. It's always, different story when you win ESL event, and having this storyline of, winning IEMs before and then winning ESL in such a nice place as well. It was something unique, definitely.
Another event that I'll ask you about, because I noticed the ones that you win, you're going to have remembered the better ones, which is the next year, there was that storyline where you went to the ESL Cologne Major and you had the really epic game against SK in the semi-finals, but they won the major. But right afterwards, because I was working the event, everyone went back to America and we had ELEAGUE, if you remember. And then the ELEAGUE finals, you were playing against FNATIC. She was supposed to lose this game on paper. Everyone thought FNATIC was, wow, it's FNATIC, amazing, whatever. And you guys wrecked them, I remember, in this final, in this Fox Theatre. It was actually pretty epic. So do you remember this win?
I do. And this is actually, the tournament itself, it was one of the longest events we ever been to.
It took months.
Yes, we were in the, the crazy thing is we played group stage first and finished 3rd. We went into Cologne, I think, for ESL 1. Then we came back to Atlanta to play last chance qualifier for 3rd place teams. And then we went all the way through playoffs into winning an event. But I'm not sure, is it about me personally or our players, Virtus.pro and us in 1.6, but I was thinking about it myself, that when I was a kid, I know that, I don't remember my mother, I had this, I'm not sure how you call it, but when she passed away, you kind of almost forget everything connected to her. Like, I don't remember almost anything. But I know that she had books about growing kids and how to make me feel confident. Like, let's say I made a mess at school, beat somebody or fight with somebody. When she come and pick me up, she would never say a bad word about me in front of the teachers and my colleagues. But when we go out, no going out, no TV, nothing. You just go into the books and learn. And probably she knew some tricks. So this is one of the things. The second is, We didn't have enough money, as I said, and we are moving from one apartment to another. So before I was 12, we moved like 8 or 9 times. We're changing locations basically. So I always had to find new friends, go to either new school or even new grocery is a different experience for a kid.
Sure.
So like a seller and the grocery man or a woman, so you can buy ice creams, but then you have to go to another place and next year to another place. I think this was helping me to grow, to adjust to the new environments pretty quickly. And then we are also traveling a lot during 1.6 careers, which sometimes you have jet lag. Sometimes you need to sleep on the couch in apartment. Sometimes you have a double room and sleeping on extra bed. Sometimes you even have to sleep at the airport and still compete next day. So what I was thinking, this difficult environments and switching this place of living and a lot of tournaments made me never complain, but just finding solutions to every existing problem in my life. And when we were in ELEAGUE for so long, this is when you kind of already feel home, you feel safe, you are confident. And when we were for 3 or 4 weeks in one place, we knew there is nobody who can stop us, nobody. And we're going to win every game with this confidence. When you prepare the game plan, when you believe that you're going to win, it's all about confidence. I think we smashed NIP as well, or I think it was NIP. Snax said in quarterfinal, I want to call Dust 2. I will watch the Dust 2 and I'm going to call this map. And then you just trust the guy. He was calling. We won easily, I think, like 16-4, 5-6 this map maybe. In total, we are winning an event with really high boost of, how to say it? Difficult to explain in English, but this aura we created, it was naturally built. When you are in this one place for a long time, this is when you kind of feel safe. This is what happened to my team in Paris as well. We have been for so long that we know that I would say we were close of winning Vitality as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have. I know they were in lead, but we felt we could have won.
Sure. Right. A question I have is this. I know in a tournament that everyone loves this final, the E-League Atlanta Major Final, but I know that that's not the case for Virtus.pro players. Like, I won't say who, but one time I got cornered by a Virtus.pro player, an after party. He probably had too many drinks, and he was just trying to demand that I have to admit that Virtus.pro should have won this match. So I know it's stuck in the minds a lot, but if I remember this final, it was, if people might know, ridiculous the way Astralis won. Forget even the third map. They were supposed to lose the second map on Overpass. That was when Zipnix did that 1 HP miracle 1v3 clutch that if you don't do, probably they lose 2-0. Then in the final, you were up so much. They were even doing 4 spies, etc. There's so many ways. It feels like that was the movie for them. They were just supposed to apparently win that final. But if you were you guys, you never got to win a major when you were the coach. Should you have won this match? Is this the one you thought was yours? Was it there?
I can tell you this. When we were 12-6 on third map and having this advantage, I was already okay, if I get a mic on the stage, I need to be ready. What am I going to say?
Okay.
I was preparing my speech already.
Yes.
And we also had, after the semifinal we won, we went to shopping mall and we bought some sneakers, fake Yeezys.
Right.
With some flashlights around in this bottom of the shoe. And when we were entering the stage, we turned them on during the game. It was flashy. And at this 12-6, I already turned them on, preparing my speech. And I'm not sure if I had one remaining timeout or not, maybe one. And we just started to lose. And they started to play aggressive and with so much confidence rushing mid. And just losing. I turned off the shoes. And it's not like I lost the fade, but sometimes when you get stomped so much by somebody, you feel it's coming, and it was so bad feeling. I know at this point I had so big impact on influence of how we play already. It was in this more than 2 years, and Snax was having a great tournament, and we just played really good as a team. Like I felt that we can win it. Of course, we were leading, and on second map, we felt you kind of threw the map. All right, let's finish it at third, and we are having 960 health, I think, then leading 3 or 4-1, 13-7 or 12-6, and then everything falls down. Everything. It was the biggest loss I had in CSGO, probably. I mean, the most important because it was the major final. But also, I think it was good for community, showing that what Astralis was doing in terms of coaching stuff with psychologists and physiotherapists, all the diet restrictions. I think it was the step forward into growing our scene by this win, because I mean I believe that whatever you do has the reason, and for them it could have been like the belief they didn't lose the faith on T-side train losing 12-6. Like who would have thought we're gonna win this, right? And against us being on fire, like City train 2 or 3 ops probably, and having so much map control as City, but they didn't lose the faith. According to Get Right, Don't Stop Believing, they didn't, and yeah, it was a good win for them and for our community. I would say, proving that there is something else than just shooting and confidence. There is many aspects behind which makes you win the games.
I do have one more question that's like a potentially bad memory like that. But the last time you were in the semi-final of a major was the one in Poland. It was in the Krakow one, and you were playing Immortals, and people know in the final it was going to be Gambit. Like, to me, everyone forgets that Virtus.pro was in the semi-final because this is when they were in the slump, you know, and the results weren't so good. When I look at this, especially because you're in a home side, this is the one to me also. Maybe you could have won this one. You could have snatched this one, maybe.
I mean, we felt so as well. I know this was the day when quarter and semi was played the same day.
Right. I think you're right, yes.
And yeah, and we used a lot of, let's say, energy on preparing against this quarterfinal.
It was against North,
North, yes. I remember some overpass City decision making that we push mid because they rarely take mid. First they take long and they wrap toilets and mid from this. So we had good understanding of how they play, though they had this. Was it this event? They had this T site on Cobblestone. Magisk was no.
Oh right,
Magisk,
yes.
Yeah, this was this game. I remember because there is a story with Magisk. I may say.
Okay.
He had a really good game, but they lost apparently, and we're so happy about winning this. I think it was our main focus for the day, and we thought if we win a quarter, we probably go to the final as well. Brazilians, like who cares? And we didn't do any analysts for this match. We just thought we were gonna win, or we were just tired. But it was 2-0 for them, I think. And I don't remember the game actually. I just remember. I mean, as I said, I don't think of negatives. I look for positives. I remember people jumping in the arena and yelling Virtus.pro. This is the things I want to remember from this event.
Right, tell me the Magisk story then. What happened with Magisk?
Yeah, with Magisk. I mean, it was before or like during after party in the hotel bar. He was sitting alone, crying, let's say, like not like crying like a baby, but you know, having a bad time. So I asked him, would he like to join us? We are just having a beer, and we gave him a beer, and he said that he's most likely going to be kicked from North, and he don't know what the future holds, and like, he just joined them recently, and now they're getting rid. And we said that, like, bro, you are insane individually, and trust me, if you work hard, that some teams will come pick you up, and you will have another opportunity to perform in tier 1 events. And a few months later, he got picked by Astralis and became like what now 4-time major champion. So never lose faith. And when you're a good individual, and often your teammates are, how we put it, jealous about you performing too well, so they think you are taking their space. But this is them not making the right decisions and not like fighting for this spot, but just playing the game. And they are finding excuses to make and justifying their bad performance by kicking somebody who's really good from the team, and yeah, he was carrying them basically, and they kicked him.
Right. One question I have, right, which is I think that because Get Right and Forest switched to CSGO, they were just good immediately and they won all those tournaments. I think it made a lot of people misunderstand that, like, not every player was able to be as good at CSGO as they were at 1.6. And the ultimate example to me has to be NEO. Like, this guy was, like, I actually think he was the best 1.6 player ever. But in CSGO, I watched loads of his games. He was just all right. And quite frankly, in your teams, it looked even like he realised this and had to become more, he became kind of more of a supportive element, right? He was the guy, he was kind of the Lord eventually. He was the one winning the clutch round, but aside from that, he wasn't the top fragger. He wasn't the one taking over the game. Was this a surprise to you that he was never as good in CSGO? How would you describe how you used him in Virtus.pro?
This is also another factor. Me as a coach, when we play the match, let's say, I never know who's top fragging, bottom fragging and stuff. I'm just focused mostly on, I mean, this is for me like natural that the player has to kill. Like if I tell him to do something, like unless he's just throwing utility, his job is to kill. So you can, I mean, I do not care. Is it NEO, Snax or Pasha or byali, TaZ top fragging? And I mean, at some point you kind of realize that NEO isn't the guy who's winning us games, but I think it was more of his change and his will of being the guy who leads the team rather than performing. I never spoke with him about it, but I could only consider that he was maybe mentally broken and thought that if Forest and Get Right are so good and they had this 87 winning streak, I'm not good enough anymore. Maybe he just didn't find himself. Maybe he didn't spend enough time. Maybe he didn't want it. Maybe he lost confidence. Hard to say for me. I was using him, let's say, in a bad way, using him as best as I could, knowing his skills and his in-game leadership skills were pretty good. Even though we disagreed probably multiple times, but development is about, especially in duos, the relation IGL coach. If you disagree with many things, it's also helping the other guy finding counter arguments, which makes you think more about certain topics. So overall, I think we both learned from it, and we're also improving because of even though he sacrificed his individual career, it made Virtus.pro perform more consistent for a longer period, I would say, because there wouldn't be a leader which would suit the playstyle into the meta which was existing. I would say like that.
Right. One of the things about this team was, as you said, it was actually Snax in CSGO who was the big name, and he was getting all the awards and being ranked top player from your team, etc. Right. Who was this guy as a star player? Because I noticed, like, he wasn't like a traditional style of just star player. Like, he had that like sneaky style, and he was doing the super aggressive lurks on different spots. Who is this guy? Because he didn't do many interviews in English, so we don't really know him in the West that much.
Mm-hmm. First, I would like to say, I don't want to put you into the like basket bin or how you call all the journalists, but there is this star player thing. Like, hey, I want to join your team as a star player. But how can you describe who star player is? Like, you want to have all the best roles because like star player is made, in my opinion, because somebody is just outplaying the others, or like he's just better than everyone in his role. It's not like I'm playing Con on Mirage and this is star role, because you can fucking underperform in this role.
Sure.
But our I don't know, A player or our short player can be in star role because he's doing his job better than usual, better than all the standards. And we never had something like star role. Star player was just the best player basically, and he had more. Like, it's not about freedom. Like when you, same as like the first question you asked me, like when I was making the calls and they were working, people were trusting me more. So I became IGL. And let's say when Snax was making his plays and it was efficient and we're winning us rounds and the games, we were trusting him more. So he was like this, let's say, secondary caller, which often is like, I mean, in my teams, it's always IGL has the strongest voice in the game, even over a coach. Coach has the strongest voice on the theory, but secondary caller is giving tons of ideas because he's a playmaker. And if IGL agrees, he's kind of letting him taking over, but he cannot also excuse himself when we lose because IGL is giving him permission. So you can always say no and take ownership of your decision. But if you allow the guy, you are also responsible for allowing him. And Snax was the guy who loved to create. I mean, it was very moody, but not in the negative way. Sometimes he felt, all right, this game we're going to start with this, that, and that. But the other guy, he was just quiet, listening to what's happening, and often even not listening to the call and doing his own thing because he had better feeling and maybe not communicating it well enough. And again, I would rather remember positive things about him than negatives. Of course, there were.
He was an amazing player.
Like blaming the others for some moves or stuff. Like it happens for everyone, especially if you do not know how.
Well, all right, how about this then? Because you've preempted me there. I did have a question along these lines. So people might know in the latter years when the team went down and it was the original five were having problems, there was famously like some leaked chat logs from scrims. And this is the thing I thought was funny. I'm going to tie it together in a way maybe you didn't think of, which is as we were talking about 1.6 and the way people were getting kicked out of the team or they're deciding should they kick people. Right back then, it mainly was people like NEO and TaZ, the big stars of the team, the big names. I always wondered if they actually finally understood in CSGO, they were the ones getting that treatment because if you look at the logs, it was all Snax and byali who were sort of like, look, I'm going to do a paraphrase. It wasn't really what they said, but for the fans at home, it was almost like they were like, these boomers don't know how to play the game and they all think they know best and have the ideas, but like, you know, we're the ones fragging. It was almost like they got to experience the other side of it, if you know what I mean.
I actually didn't focus about the question. Do you mean that TaZ and NEO were also chatting similar things to
it felt like in 1.6 yeah they were the ones who would decide like, oh, we're going to kick this guy or, you know, he's not fitting, but in CSGO they got that from Snax and byali were the star players maybe in their minds and were thinking, you know, you're the guys who were outdated, maybe we're kicking you out.
I would rather say it's more TaZ and NEO were more talking, you know, behind, like not towards the player.
Oh, right.
Rather coming with a statement, hey, we think that something is happening, you have to step up because otherwise we're going to do something. And the clip you are mentioning, it was more of a, I mean, in every team there is some, in every team there is a guy who doesn't talk as much as the rest because you cannot have 5 players talking equally. And TaZ was often the guy focused more on shooting than communicating, and it was just a meme in our team that when they rush, he's just saying B. And you don't know, should you react or not? Like, is it 2B, 5B, or flash B, or something? Sometimes Mike was cutting, whatever. And it was just more of frustration over the meme existing in our team for a longer period. And sad part is that it got leaked. It wasn't me. I would have never done it. But some people maybe needed some attention or just on purpose leaked it so the others could see existing problems and push some decisions maybe.
Right, I want to actually ask you about byali, one of the players I haven't talked about so far in this interview, because when people think of like the Virtus.pro and all the like super aggressive T sides, this is actually the player I always think of, because I've known a lot of great players who were on other teams who said that this is the player where it felt like when he was on his game, it was just, you just got headshot immediately every time. You could never win a duel against him. Who was byali?
byali, he's another confident guy. Like I think we were basically built of confidence. byali. In game, we called him concrete shoes. He never moved from his side on CT when the bomb wasn't planted on the other, so always waiting. But he was unstoppable with in CT. When somebody was coming into his side, he could get he was really good anchor, 3-4 kills often. especially when he was on fire and disrespecting opponents. When he felt, I mean, this is how I like to let the players play. It's not like, I know not Alu. I mean, Alexi B, I heard. He's the guy who's micromanaging everyone, even on city side every round, which is, for fuck's sake, not how you play the game nowadays. And you need to know your players and let them play the game they want, but you put it into like a piece, having, five fingers on one hand, like one of the French famous guys said.
Shocks.
And byali was, there is freedom, but with some limits. And the plow was going on when the limits was overextended maybe, but within some control. So we knew about how disciplined we have to be, but also we could have pushed further than the line was set. And I would rather remember byali being city player than T. He wasn't a clutcher, in my opinion. I don't have much to add.
All right, what about this then? So we'll just skip the rest of the Virtus.pro time because it was a lot of bad times. You said you don't want to talk about negatives. There was a lot of rough times. But actually, one point, you mentioned it earlier, and I was going to ask you this because I always do my homework, mate. A lot of people won't know this, Kuben, which is that in this Apeks team that you're the coach of now, as you say, the player that you brought in is a player you basically discovered to like tier 1 or tier 2, which is JL, the Lithuanian player. Now, a lot of people won't know this because they only saw him at this major where he was fragging. But you brought him in when you were the coach of Mad Lions. This was one of the players you brought in to make that like mixed roster. And I remember back then, I think maybe it was even you told me like this guy's going to be like one of the next best players, like his skills really high level or something. Who is this guy? Why have you chosen to use him in your teams?
So when I started working for Mad Lions, we got connected basically because of I wanted to build a team more around performance team and like good coaching stuff and taking the youngsters. I'm not a fan of, buying 5 superstars and like putting tons of money just to get the players and trying to make them a team. In my opinion, there is a lot of talent on the market that you could take. I mean, I don't want to talk about like money only, but let's say cheaper players or even for free, which you can make a great team within a few months. And with JL, the situation was like, I wanted to have 7 players in rotating lineup because with experience, you expect more professionalism and it's easier to fit the role. I mean, switch the players if you need another role or, replace somebody, bench, pick the other. Things are easier when you have players who were on the scene for 2-3 years. Then you can have 5, yes. But with youngsters, you don't know. Is it like this player will have no understanding of the game, or for him, professionalism and playing more hours a day, like 7, 8, 9 a day, isn't a thing, or his character traits does not suit my principles in the team. So I was thinking about having 7, 2 oppers and 5 riflers, but we already had 2 oppers, which was Thootson and Woro, and 3 rifles. So JL, 2 or 3 rifles, and JL at the interview, because we were getting the players into the team up to their coachability and not like character traits, but maybe intelligence, I would say. There was no like IQ test people often mentioned when I talk about this story, but there was like a riser test with some certain questions with tells you about coachability of the player and finding himself in some situations. And JL had really good results, but we already had completed the lineup. So we said like, he said he's an offer, but I offered him like, with these results, I see you could be a good rifler as well. And this is somebody we need because we have 2 offers already. Gave him a few days and he said that he would like to try. And in the beginning, since he has this winner's mentality, which he just cannot lose, but also I think because of us picking him up, he thought he has already won his life and he has accomplished everything. And he was underperforming even, I would say. And then I limited his game drastically to playing only 2 maps. I gave him instructions how to prepare, how to observe people, how to watch, how to set his place, how to communicate. It was a tough decision. We talked in person as well. And it was tough for me, it was tough for him, but he learned the lesson. He started to prepare. He started to play these 2 maps only. He was the best player on both. So with the time going, I gave him more maps and he just proved me on all of them and became our best players, even though we had an oper. With Rifle being a top player is also not usual thing to see. And we built this, not like a father-son, but let's say close relation of trust, because I heard him with limiting his game time. He didn't accept it, but he was forced. Then he understood. He saw that this was made for a reason, and we built this trust within both of us. And I wanted to bring him into Apeks lineup as well. It could have been weight on my shoulders if he underperformed, of course. But I discovered him and I knew his capabilities.
Right, at this major, obviously everyone's going to remember the Vitality game, etc. But I want to take everyone back. I'm pretty sure almost everyone had Team Liquid winning that match. Everyone was talking about, it'll be Team Liquid versus Vitality in the semi-finals. Everyone was looking past Apeks and thinking, right, Liquid's getting hotter and hotter as the tournament goes on. They're going to be the ones there. This Team Liquid quarterfinal must have been a big match.
Everyone but not us. And we knew we were going to win this. I was really, really confident, same as my players. And when you come to the match thinking that they have better chances of winning, this is my way of thinking, and I'm sharing this with my players. Maybe they think a bit different, but when I've been here for multiple years, and when I watch the team playing and I see the weaknesses in their game of how can we easily abuse them. It's not visible for the audience, right? But you see gap here and gap there at this time, later in the round, early in the round, post plans. And when I talk with my team, showing them what I see, and in Apeks, they really listen carefully. Not sure. You talked with Stico recently, right? I'm not sure if you talked about me personally, but this guy improved so well when I just opened the perspective for him of that you should not limit yourself only to play this lure. Your decision making is really good, but you are stopping yourself. The quote I made, I said to him, "Don't be victim of your own limitations, because nobody is telling you not to do it. It's only your brain telling you, I'm bad at this." And he learned to make better decisions, to take more ownership of playing his role, and this is how he became better. And when we were preparing for Liquid, we knew we have so many answers for their game that there is no chance we can lose. When you watch Vitality, you cannot find these gaps as much because it's more not perfect, of course, but there is always a backup plan. In Liquid, it was pretty easy to know, and we had a good start. If you start the game with a confident lead, like 5-1, 4-2, 6-1, then you kind of know that your game is under control, because knowing how good default we have, and that we started the game pretty well, there was no doubt in my head ever that we're going to lose against them.
You said it earlier, but when you played Vitality again, for Vitality, it was their version of the movie, I guess, because they were on home soil, it's in France, they get to win all that. But Actually, I think your team was the one of the whole major that played them the closest. I agree with you. I think this series, there's a world where you could have won this series. There was times in both maps where you were coming into it, you looked like you were going to take the lead and win the game. Even though on paper, it's supposed to be a mismatch, your team was matching up very well against Vitality.
We didn't have the best start because they changed the roles on City Mirage. And the plan was to abuse going Apeks. And I knew about rotations, how he plays B, what this thing's doing on short, how to pull off the rotations. Same as we did against Nitro. And the beginning was just tough. Like we were a bit confused. We should have switched the plan. It was first time it happened in Apeks. It was like second LAN tournament we played third. So it didn't happen before that our plan didn't work as well. But yeah, so we were in disadvantage early, but then we were getting back and back on CT, reading their game better as well. It was 16-14, right? So the last round means we didn't go to overtime, but I think in overtime we could have had the answers already. So it just took us more time. And Vertigo is our weakest map, one of their strongest. Still, we put on the fight. It is what it is.
One question I have is this. When you came to be a coach in CSGO, like a lot of people, this is not me, but this would be the cynical take if someone was an outsider and they didn't know you, is they'd just say, well, how good a coach was he? He basically coached his former teammates and one really famous lineup. But then after that, you had the years where it was the lesser results and the smaller teams. Do you think coming back with Apeks, who actually aren't the biggest names, some of the players haven't even had the big runs like this to the major, does it help prove to people that you were a good coach and that you have become good at this job too?
Thinking long term, I think so. People are always looking for something to make you feel sad and undervalued, and I do not really care. Like I said, I told you I don't remember much about my mom, but I remember once she told me, whatever you do in your life, in your job, always try to be the best, and nobody else can kind of like kick you out from the team or say bad things about you. I mean, just do your job as best as you can. And sometimes you have no influence on somebody or on the result. Like before the match, at the major, let's say, I want to think that I've done the best job possible. I've prepared my team. We did it on the theory or online games, anti-stratting, confidence boost, and they are set to play. And then it's all dependent on them. If they haven't won, like I tried my best, maybe they didn't, but this is how I try to think. I'm not proving anybody. I'm just doing my job, and I'm super happy when, of course, I have some messages from fans, and all the haters are, they are not writing to me, "Oh, you proved me wrong" or something.
True, yeah.
They are just waiting for me to lose another game early, and they will pop up again of, oh, Apeks is bad again. When we go to Cologne maybe or Game Mercedes or Pro League, we're gonna bump out in the group stage and it was just a fluke at the major. Like, who cares? I don't care about this concept.
Right, you said yourself in this interview, but yeah, one strange thing about the perspective on your career is you played for a long, long time. You had a very long career at 1.6, but you've now been a coach for even longer than you were a pro player. Does that seem weird to think back on?
It does. And I have birthday in the month, and like thinking I'm 35, and I remember winning this Monza event 17 years ago. It was half of my life ago, and it's crazy. But I still like it. I mean, I love by playing this game, and it was always, it's become my dream to just spend my life within this game. And probably sooner or later there will be time moving forward, but I want to stay in the community, maybe like, I don't know, sports director, getting some, courses of how to lead the team from marketing perspective. And I think I will definitely, the more people from my org know me, probably the more trust I even gain because they see my experience. I don't have any papers. It's just, talking to me, spending time and seeing the results. This is the proof of my experience.
Another thing is that a lot of people don't understand, even though the competitions were still like everyone was serious and they would consider them all epic in 1.6, the amount of money, just salary, even sometimes prize money, like I said, standard of living was lower for everyone. And I always explain it like this. Back in the day, even the team that won everything in a year, like FNATIC or Na'Vi, they basically, even from winning all that prize money, it just meant actually they had like what in like, you know, Denmark would just be like a normal office salary. Like they weren't millionaires. They didn't have like sports cars or anything. Nowadays, obviously, there are people who have enormous living salaries, etc. And I'm sure nowadays, even to be in a team like yours, it's like actually it's a good job. It's actually a good. I'm sure compared to someone your age in Poland, you probably have a better job than them, and like obviously a lot more fame and things like that. Is it surreal also that esports got to this point? I mean, there was a long time as a player, it was kind of at the same level, right?
Of course, it's surreal, but I think it deserves it. And you know, coming back to the times when I was playing and knowing why is it growing and how many people are joining this, and us old people still staying here, and then all the young generations joining. This is how we grow. And if I'm going to be 55, these newly born people right now, they will be pro players, and it's growing even more and more. So there will be more people, and CS2 is coming up as well. Probably in the beginning, it's not going to be as good as CSGO right now, but we have example of CSGO. That first year was really rough, but then it blown. It just literally tripled in a year of what was happening in CS 1.6 before. So the hopes are high. I think CS itself will never die. Like, why should anybody let this, you know, disappear? Like, there is no way. It gives life for so many people, not only, you know, devs and Valve people, but like you, me, and so there is so many jobs in esports in Counter-Strike, which is just growing. Like there will be, I mean, even the staff within the teams, like you can have analysts, you can have coach, assistant coach. I remember Lurpis was a few years ago saying there would be like city analyst, tea analyst, probably like an Oper master helping the Opers to grow, academy teams. Like you see more, there was a time which these academy teams just pop suddenly to every top team, and they stopped doing this because of this
there was a rule,
conflict of interest. Yes. Now we see academy team playing in tier 1 events, and Gambit Academy became main team of Gambit. They got sold to Cloud9. So there is multiple different way. We just need to find better way in CS2 to monetize for the teams as well, because I know they are all in a slump when it comes to income. But somebody at some point have to find it, find a way.
Because of how long CSGO has gone on, it's almost 10 years now that I've been like analyst, doing like on-camera stuff and doing like my persona that I built up. So there's not many people I can actually ask this question of. So I thought I'd ask you. You're actually one of the only people who knows me in the modern day from 1.6 and who I was back then. And if people don't know, I was a very different person. Like I was never at these after parties. I was the nerd editing the video in the hotel room till the morning, looking at the demo, you know. Who was Thorin back then? Was he a different guy to you? Was it strange to see who I am now?
And I'm not the right guy to answer the question, because I don't judge. I observe, but I do not judge. If you say you have never been to after parties, so did I. Maybe if I was, then I was with my guys, spending time with my people, not like all the other teams players. So it's difficult to say for me. I know you were, if I can use fancy word, you were nitpicking people always. Oh.
Sure.
So you were still, I mean, I'm not sure if still now, but we in our team are laughing that you have like a Excel file with some dates of tweets for like, okay, against Kuben. 2008, he lost the final and he said to Zonic, you fucking dog, or something. Yeah. And that you have the file with all the nicknames. There's some, you know, how to say, like, some things against anybody, but you are this esport historian. I mean, this is how you live. And I mean, I told you in our tweets, even, I mean, in DMs, I respect you for who you are. You are not changing because people are telling you, and you do your job. And even though I wouldn't agree with everything you say, I still respect you because you have your own opinion and you are not changing it because somebody is telling you. You have your own beliefs. It's like, in terms of religion or whatever, like if you cannot convince the other guy to change it because you talk one-on-one. No way. Like people have their own thoughts, brain, and they believe in what they want to.
At the end of this interview, do you have any final message for people? Do you want to thank anyone or say hello to someone?
I don't know who's going to watch it, but I would say never doubt your skills. If you want to prove something, just work hard, and at some point you will succeed. Either in a year or 10 or 15, it depends how hard you work and how lucky you are as well, because you need to have a lot of luck to be even picked and have seen by some top teams if you are a player.
Dziękuję.
Thank you.
As Mary J. Blige said in her track, All I Need, you're all I need to get by, which is the case for me and my Patreon community who support this channel and these videos. Some of them include Theogony, Matt Pognaccio-Racula, Ahmed Haju, Joseph Adcock, Tosh, Bot Pounder 420, Toucan, Animosity, Tobias Bernasconi, Jensen Gore, Yerka, and a special thanks always to the main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to ask a question in my regular video AMA? Do you want teasers? Find out who upcoming guests are. Maybe you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content, or you want to take part in one of those longer esports discussions with me where we go all over the place. Well, if any of those grab your fancy, put your money where your mouth is, join the Risk Illuminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.